Say hello. Aren't you gorgeous? Yeah. Oh, you're hungry. You're angry. You're hungry. Hi guys, so it's been a while since I've shown my face on here, and I did promise to come back, didn't I, and talk to you a little bit about my C-section experience. Hello baby. Hello, look at her, she's so cute. Hold on. Are you hungry again? Are you hungry again? Oh. So, I wanted to talk to you a bit about my positive C-section experience and the difference, I suppose, between experiencing a emergency C-section and an elective C-section. So I experienced an emergency section. Oh, it's typical, isn't it? Like being sick on camera, hey? Oh, yeah. So I just think of sick all the time now, and it's great. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. So basically, I had an emergency C-section with George back in 2016 because I had something called placenta previa. Now, if you've watched my videos before, you probably think, yeah, we know, you've told us, but you might be a new person watching. And if you are, then I had something called placenta previa, which is where you've got a low-lying placenta. Not you, me. I had a low-lying placenta, which is a placenta that's covering the exit. So George could not come out, my fairy, if you like. And at the time, to be honest with you, I don't know why, but you guys who follow me know that I'm quite scared of a lot of things. It's just my personality. So I actually was scared of childbirth, probably since I knew that it wasn't a blooming bird that delivered a baby. Since I found out about the birds and the bees, the thought of something coming out of there that is a baby terrified me. And so when I found out with George that I was going to have a C-section, it wasn't really something that bothered me. I've never really wanted a vaginal birth. So I have experienced labour before, and this was when I lost my twins at around 16 weeks. I had to give birth to them. But with George, it was a C-section. I knew I was going to be having a C-section. I didn't know it would be at 33 weeks. That was because I had a big bleed. Luckily, I was in the hospital and they delivered George via an emergency C-section. So with Olivia, obviously the same again, not a low placenta, but I had a short cervix, didn't I? I'd already opted for a C-section anyway, because I just felt it was more controlled, it was more safe, and that's what I wanted. So that's what I opt for. And I think in the UK, if you've had a previous C-section, you do get a choice. I'm not sure. I do know of people that haven't had previous sections and have had them when they've asked, but I do know of people that have been declined C-section. So I'm not really sure what the legalities or how it works in terms of being allowed a C-section if you ask or not. So I'm not sure about that bit. But anyway, with Olivia, the experience was totally different. So Olivia could have been born at any time from 20 weeks because I had a short cervix. So we were trying to keep her in for as long as possible. You okay, baby? I'm just having milk pour out your mouth. Hold on. There. What's a bit more sick on me, hey? Oh, you're trying to do a poo as well, aren't you? So I had a C-section. Oh, yeah, so I had the C-section, but she could have come at any time. But I knew that's how I was going to deliver her. And I was hoping it would be past viability. Obviously, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll have seen all that we went through on the way to getting to Olivia. I've got a really itchy nose. On the way to getting Olivia, it was like a weekly celebration when we made it to another week, because from week 20 we were told that she could come at any time due to my short cervix. Are you hungry again? Every time she's awake, she's hungry at the moment, or she thinks she is. So anyway, Olivia actually ended up coming when my C-section was booked at 39 weeks. But the thing that I loved about an elective C-section was they actually phoned me. Now, I don't know if this is standard procedure. I assume it is. They phoned me and told me every single bit of what was happening. Because when I was having an emergency C-section, you don't know if the forms you're signing, everyone has to sign. You don't know if it's just you. You don't know if they're telling you all these dangers because of your situation. So this time they phoned me and told me the whole process of what would happen in the day. So I'd go and get a PCR test a few days before. Then after that, I would go in to the hospital at 7 a.m. I take all my bags. Then it would be me. I would be one of 3 people that's having a C-section that day. Obviously, there'll be emergencies potentially as well. Then they decide the order and they book you in. You have your cannula and etc, etc. So I knew the whole details, which for someone like me that likes to feel in control of their health, and I never thought I was classed as a control freak, but I think I am with certain things because I really suffer with health anxiety as well, which are things that are kind of out of my control. I don't deal well with. But anyway, so when we went to the hospital, it was lovely. We got there, took my suitcase and other bags as well. And we got there. And then we sat in a room and the first lady came in. She was going to be looking after me. It was really nice to meet her. She got my stockings. I've stripped off. In fact, I stripped off in front of her when I really actually didn't need to. She said, do you mind getting into this gown? And I'm one of these people. I mean, I don't mind. So I just stripped off. She's like, oh no, you can go in the toilet to do that if you want. I was like, oh, sorry. I do, it doesn't bother me. Anyway, so I stripped off. Got my cannula in, and then they said I was going to be second in the queue. It's going to be about 11 o'clock. So then the surgeon came in and he comes in with a form. Now the form can be quite daunting because as someone that worries about health and death a lot, I've started calming. I'm not as bad as I used to be, thankfully, but it is still a worry of mine, and that was something that I was fearful of before I had Olivia. There was a statistic, 1 in 200,000 people will die. You could have your bladder snipped. We could perforate your bowels. You could end up in a wheelchair. All of these things. Honestly, I was quite scared at that point. Signed the forms. Then the lady came in at like 10:30 and she was like, "You ready to have a baby?" And I thought, oh my God, this is surreal. So you put your slippers on and you actually walk with a hat and a nappy and her baby milk down to theatre. You walk down to theatre and you sit on the table and it's time for the injection. So they clean the area of your back. I started crying. Danny had to come in. I was literally in there for 2 seconds. And they were like, Danny, you come in after she's had her injections, when she's like ready to be operated on. Anyway, I got down there, started crying, didn't I? Straight away. Ah! I was screaming. It was, no, not screaming. Like, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it was a bit, yeah. So anyway, they had to go and get Danny. Danny had to come in, hold my hand while I'm having these injections. I was just so overwhelmed that I was at that point of meeting this little gorgeous rainbow baby that I think it all just came over me. And I was terrified. I don't like injections. I don't like any kind of operations. I'm just not that way inclined. I mean, I don't know anyone that does, to be honest. Anyway, something that I don't know if your hospital does, but mine does, and it's worth asking, is we made a Rainbow Baby playlist. Oh my goodness. And we asked if we could plug hook our phone up to the Bluetooth, and we did. And oh, it was just beautiful. So Olivia, so what they do, I'm skipping ahead here. So they injected me in my back. It took a while to get that right. At one point, there was like an electric shock type feeling that made my leg twitch. Because it went, I don't know, they try and get in between the bones, I think. Sounds gross, but it's not that bad. It's like a bee sting in your back, basically. And then they said there's going to be warmth running down your legs now. Almost feeling like I've weed. There was. And then they put the catheter in. And then they started the operation. It took around... So she was born at 11:16. I went down there at 10:30. I think the thing that took the most time was getting the injection in. I was worrying that they were going to have to knock me out, but they didn't have to, and I don't think that's something that happens all the time anyway. But anyway, so that took the length of time. Anyway, I think after about 15-20 minutes, they said, right, we're getting to the waters now. We're going to pop the waters in a minute. And I was like, oh my God. I was like feeling myself getting very, very emotional at that point. So what I did is, well, I think I started crying at that point. Anyway, there was like a Hoover type sound, and I could feel a lot of tugging, a lot of pushing. Didn't hurt at all. They have a spray that you check that you're numb with. Anyway, it didn't hurt at all. And beautiful Olivia was dangled over. One of the ladies who was in the room at the time asked if we wanted her to take some pictures, and oh my God, she got the most incredible pictures. I forgot she was taking pictures actually, and the pictures are amazing, aren't they, baby? They are. So I just cried. She was born to Ed Sheeran, Galway girl, is it? Galway girl. I don't know, but you know which one I mean. She was born to that, and she just let out this huge cry, and it was just beautiful. It was the most beautiful day ever. George's birth, bless him, was so unexpected and so scary that I felt like I'd missed out on his enjoying the birth experience with him. So this time I really wanted to do it a bit differently, and it really went as well as it could have gone. Obviously afterwards, you are in a bit of pain, but because you're in hospital, you can have something called Oromorph, which is a type of morphine which really helps. And also they put painkiller up your back end after the operation. So that helps subside the feelings of pain. And yeah, it was a really lovely, beautiful experience, and something I would definitely recommend. Even though I was in a bit of pain afterwards, not once, like after the pain afterwards, was I not happy with what I'd done. Do you know what I mean? It was so worth it. And I'd say I'd do it again tomorrow, but I absolutely wouldn't go through pregnancy again tomorrow. I'd go through the C-section again for any day. I'd go through it now. But for the actual pregnancy, that was something that was really a challenge. So the recovery has been okay. The first few days, obviously the most difficult. Hospitals at the moment trying to get you out after one day, which I did. I'd recommend taking earplugs because there were a lot of people that just decided they wanted to FaceTime the whole family all night. So day one after the surgery, I made some notes so that I could remember exactly how I felt. Did feel like I didn't sleep at all. With Olivia, I was like, literally, it was really weird actually. I had the same experience after George's birth as well. It's like my body would not let me go to sleep. So every time I was nearly asleep, my arm would move or my leg would twitch and it would almost wake me up. But I was that scared. You know what I'm like anyway, if you've watched my other videos. I'm just a worrier. So when she was born, obviously I was just worrying she would be okay in the night. So I kept like taking her out of the crib, cuddling her. You can absolutely do that. With the C-section, what I'd say take as much painkillers as you can. You don't get anywhere by being a hero. So I took everything I could. I even set timers on my phone. I even got the doctor to subscribe me my painkillers before I went into the hospital. Main reason being is I was worried it was really busy, and if I asked for painkillers, I didn't want to be waiting ages, and I was just worried that, God, I must use the word worry so much, but that I need painkillers and I couldn't get to them. But they were actually really, really good. So we got the painkillers. I took lots of Oromorph. Anyway, it meant that I could kind of deal with Olivia, although it was hard. You kind of get a bit of a knack, and you've got a bell to ring the midwives so they can come and help you as well. They took the catheter out around 11 o'clock at night, so they wanted to only keep it in for 12 hours. And then at that point, I needed to try and go for a wee, so I drank a load. I took gripe water as well to stop me getting trapped wind in my body. I had minimal trapped wind. I know it can be quite painful usually. That was minimal for me, but I did keep drinking that great water down. And I think that played a part in it. And then I went for my first wee. Getting up is hard that first time. And a couple of times after that. When you're in the hospital, that is the hardest stand that you're ever going to do. But it's absolutely doable, okay? So I stood up, and it took me maybe about 10 minutes. No, longer. Definitely over 10 minutes to get to the toilet. And I was like, what do I do with Olivia? I didn't want to leave her. But then the midwife was like, oh, I'll watch her. But it's horrible when you're going so slow, because I just wanted to get back to Olivia ASAP, and I couldn't, because you're obviously shuffling your feet and it is a bit of a hard walk. What I'd say is, before you do the walk, make sure you've had your painkillers like maybe half an hour or so before you go for your wee. That's the order I should have done it. Mine were actually wearing off when I went for my wee, which is why it's quite painful. Expect blood. There will be. Expect the toilets not to be, because other people are using them, have just been through similar, the last thing on people's mind is to clean the toilets after they've been. So sometimes the toilets cannot be very nice. You do have to measure that first wee. I can't remember how much the measurement needed to be, but it needed to be over a certain amount, which mine was. So the recovery, then I was out the hospital the next day. The recovery, the initial first week was quite slow. I was mainly in bed. Couldn't feel when I needed to go for a wee. I'm still, now I'm 3 weeks in, I'm coming up 3 weeks in, and I'm still having to remind myself to I must need a wee, because I've had a lot of water to drink or whatever. So I'm still needing to do that. I'm nearly 3 weeks in, so it's going to be 3 weeks this Friday, which I'm on Wednesday at the moment. I can move around the house fine. I can put washing in. I can do the dishwasher. But it does get to that point of time when I start to feel niggling and pulling. And at that point, it's time to sit on the sofa and not do anything else for the rest of the day. Because if you push past that, that is when you reverse things. And I only know that from last time. I did too much and I got 2 infections that were really, really painful. And it took me a lot more than 6 weeks to get better. So you've got to listen to your body, take your time, and just distract your children. If your other children, if you've got them, George has had his iPad, he's had his Nintendo Switch. Basically, he's been on that for 3 weeks. In the evening, he's been so happy, and I have actually been managing to have a bit of a break. And obviously, you're tired because you're dealing with the night feeds as well. But the first week is really quite difficult. It's difficult to get down the bed. I remember using my head to try and get down the bed initially. The first bathroom job, hold a towel or pillow around you, because that feels strange. And also, when you first go for that first shower, you're going to think it's going to be awful, but it isn't as bad as what you think. Pulling that, when you've got the Band-Aid thing over your stitches. I had dissolvable stitches, and pulling that off, I was terrified. It was fine. Go in the shower, get it all wet behind, and just slowly pull it off. It wasn't as bad as what I thought. Looking at the scar, if you're a bit squeamish like I am, obviously, I thought that would be really hard to look at, but actually it was absolutely fine. Didn't look bad at all. You need to keep an eye on it. Don't put any shower gel near it. Just try and have showers that are just kind of water-based for a while. Pat it dry. I had a lot of smoothies, spinach smoothies. I also bought this fabulous supergreen drink, which I'll put the link in the comments to. That really helped me. And basically rest. Just let your body rest. I have been. I think it's massively helped that I was on bed rest, so I'm used to having to rest now, whereas before, because I wasn't used to resting, if I had to rest after a C-section, you're not really used to it, so it's more difficult to do. But we were in a bit of a routine of me not doing anything around the house anyway, so it's been a bit easier probably than what it would be for some other people. Pram walks, haven't really been out. I went out this Saturday, so that would have been 2 weeks post-op. It was fine at first, but then I did start to feel twinges quite quickly. So we decided that that was enough for that weekend, literally. I did a little bit of a walk, that was it. Can't really push the pram for long, didn't do that. Coming up 3 weeks now, still don't feel comfortable to even attempt to ask to drive. But I do feel like able to do things in the morning. It does pull now and again, and at that point I know it's time to sit down and relax. But anyway, we've had the best 3 weeks settling in. Look at her. She's an absolute dream, aren't you? You're a dream. She's honestly fit into our family so well, and I feel great. I feel happy. You know, obviously you're going to have a whirlwind of emotions. I'm not ready to leave her anywhere. Not that anyone is expecting me to, but I'm not ready for anyone else to look after her at the moment or anything like that. I just feel like I need to be with her all the time. So, yeah, everything is absolutely going fine. I'm in a really, really good place. I was a bit worried with George. I had postnatal depression. Obviously, I know that can still come, and I was a bit worried it might happen again. But so far, I just feel great. Really, really happy, really content. So happy with my family and so grateful to get to this stage. So I hope that's given you a bit of insight about my C-section and how it was. And if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm more than happy to answer them. Bye bye. See you next time.